Hey everybody. Hi. Nice to meet you. Thank you for is are we good with all the audio and video technical issues? We're good? We're good? Cool. So thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it. I know there's a bit of a technical glitch. There's actually, I think, a few second delay between what you're hearing, what I'm saying. So I'll try to do the best I can given the technical circumstances. My name's Stephen Lerner. I'm a senior reporter for Law 360, and I write about legal technology. In the past year, legal technology has basically meant artificial intelligence. So, as law students, I'm sure you're extremely curious about the state of artificial intelligence in the legal profession. So, today I'm going to talk a little bit about what has happened in the past year with artificial intelligence in the legal industry, taking a look specifically at some surveys from legal professionals, as well as some of the new legal AI tools on the market, and some other trends that I'm noticing in the industry that I've reported on in some of my coverage before. So that's kind of what I'll be talking about today. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A session if anybody has any questions at that point. And if there's any other technical issues, please let me know along the way. Really, the legal and AI story in the past year started with the emergence of Chat GPT, which was released on November 30th of 2022. That really took the industry by storm. It was really the first, as most people know, mainstream generative AI product, which refers to a type of AI that's capable of creating text and images or other types of media, and it uses large language models. It really took the industry by storm. Some attorneys were apprehensive at first, but some were, in my coverage, very open to using generative AI, especially Chat GPT. In the first quarter of this year, 2023, I spoke to an attorney from a small law firm. He told me that they were using Chat GPT to brainstorm ideas for opening statements in trials and for jury selections. So even as early as the beginning of this year, attorneys were getting comfortable with using this technology. A little bit of my background: I've never been to law school, and I'm based in the U.S. I've never been to Ghana, although I'd love to visit Ghana certainly someday. So most of the examples I have are based in the U.S. and some other countries. Hopefully, over time, Ghana and other countries in Africa will start to use this technology more in the legal profession. But right now, most of the coverage has been based in the U.S. That's where I cover stories. But I think over time, these stories will be more applicable to Ghana, especially in the legal field, as these tools become prevalent. So even though early on in 2023, there was some fear about job loss from AI in legal, overall, I felt, based on my conversations with attorneys, there was more optimism. Most of the attorneys that I spoke to said they were not feeling AI fatigue. They felt excited about the prospects of generative AI and what it could do to the legal profession. And then the trouble started. In May of this year, as I'm sure most of you probably know, two personal injury attorneys in the US submitted a brief that was written by ChatGPT, and that brief cited non-existent case law. A month later in June, a federal judge in New York sanctioned those two personal injury attorneys, for submitting this brief with fake cases. The judge found that the lawyers abandoned their responsibilities to check their work, and so we had to sanction them. Now, the reason ChatGPT is, probably made up these cases is because this is referred to as an hallucination, which is when the generative AI tool creates inaccurate things that sound true but really are not. This is not the only time we've seen hallucinations in the legal field this year. There have been other cases, but this was certainly the one that got the most attention. There are other problems, of course, with the public-facing version of ChatGPT. The other problem besides hallucination is data security. The data that you submit on ChatGPT is public, especially if it's a public-facing version. So that's also been a big issue. But because of these issues with hallucinations, there was a lot of pushback that we had noticed from judges in the US. In May, a federal judge in Texas required attorneys appearing before him to certify that they did not use generative AI to write their briefs, or that they used generative AI to check, did use generative AI in some way, shape, or form. The following month in June, another federal judge, this time in Montana, issued an order prohibiting out-of-state attorneys from using AI tools like ChatGPT to write briefs. So because of that pushback, there was a lot of legal professionals had to sort of rethink how they were going to use these tools. And so with that in mind, I wanted to take a look at a few industry surveys that were conducted from, or at least released July, August, September, October, the past 4 months, to give you an idea of where the legal industry stands with the use of AI. So these surveys and the data inside them came out in the past 4 months. First, some of the surveys that I've noticed showed a great deal of optimism regarding generative AI in the legal field. In August, in a survey from Everlaw and ACIDS found that 12% of legal professionals say that they're already using generative AI, and another 28% plan to adopt those tools in the future. Even if they didn't adopt those tools, half of those survey takers agreed that generative AI would positively impact the legal field. Many said that it would help drive greater client value, and the majority said that generative AI would allow them to prioritize higher value work in the legal field. Another survey in that same month, in August, found more optimism. This was from a survey was collected by LexisNexis. 77% of the more than 3,300 lawyers surveyed in this survey who were aware of generative AI said that they believed it would boost efficiency. Now, most of those lawyers surveyed were based in the US, the UK, Canada, and France, but this showed that even as of August, most were optimistic about. Just mentioned a few quick surveys about how there's optimism, recent optimism in the industry with AI, but there's still a great deal of concern in the surveys. Another survey from July, this was by Walters Kluger, found that more than 80% of people strongly or somewhat agreed that generative AI will create transformative efficiencies for legal research and routine tasks. However, half of the people who took the survey disagreed that AI will transform complex matters. Complex matters could mean negotiating mergers, could mean litigation strategy development. And furthermore, only about 30% of those survey takers believe that Gen AI could actually be capable of handling a high level of complex work. Another survey in July, same month, came out from Litify. It found that legal probably not prepared for what AI brings. The majority of respondents from that survey, 60%, said that they're not currently using AI for legal work, and the majority believe that the legal industry is not ready to use AI tools to their full potential. And it's not just legal professionals who are concerned about these tools in the legal industry. Another survey found that consumers, those based in the US, were not comfortable with AI. A survey from CS Disco in August found that only about 21% they were comfortable with using Gen AI in legal, which is lower than most other industries. When we look at in-house lawyers, we see a mixture of good and bad with generative AI. A survey in September from Lowenstein Sandler found that about half of respondents said they had little to no confidence in their understanding of this new technology. And only 1/4 of the participants in that survey said they had been trained on these new tools. And these participants are in-house legal staff. In fact, most of them don't plan to have any formal training or education related to Gen AI in the near future. Another survey from October, this came out from Everlaw and the Association of Corporate Counsel, found that 1/3 of general counsel and chief legal officers said they plan to use AI in order to lower costs. Lowering costs is one of the big trends that we're noticing among in-house teams as regards to technology today. Another survey, this came out from Clio in October, found that clients of legal services, this includes in-house teams, are more optimistic about AI than their law firms, their outside counsel. 32% of clients think that AI's benefits outweigh the cost. And they also think that the justice system could be improved with AI. Only about 19% of legal professionals, those lawyers, feel that way. So there is an incredible gap of optimism, but according to this survey, where in-house teams are more likely to be optimistic about this technology than legal professionals, than the lawyers and the law firms. So with that in mind, there's been an influx of new generative AI tools out in the legal field. As stated earlier, lawyers really can't trust ChatGPT, not only because of hallucination and it can't cite case law, but the other issue with ChatGPT, at least the public-facing version, is that the data is not private, the data is not secure. So with that in mind, several legal technology companies have released generative AI tools in the past year. So to give you some examples, Thomson Reuters came out with their Copilot plugin. It's still in testing. LexisNexis has their Lexis Plus AI, which was just released to the public last week in the US. Relativity, the e-discovery platform, came out with their tool called AIR for generative AI. Clio has a generative AI tool in the mix called Duo. Ironclad has a tool. CS Disco has a tool called Cecilia. Contract Pod AI has a tool called Leia. Eversort has a tool. VLEX merged with Fastcase this year to release a tool for generative AI. Net Documents released a generative AI tool called NDMax. Everlaw released an AI tool called Everlaw AI. So there's been a whole list of legacy players who are creating their own generative AI tools. Just by a show of hands, has anybody heard of any of these tools before? They've been in the media for some time. I just want to see by a show of hands, has anybody heard of some of these new generative AI tools? If not, that's totally fine. Just wanted to get an idea. If so, some of you have, one person I see has heard of these tools. Two people. What's interesting about these tools is that some of the large language models that these legacy players have used, some of them have created these large language models in-house for these tools. So these are using original large language models designed for the legal field, but others are just simply partnering with a third-party tool like OpenAI's OpenAI's large language model, and connecting that to their own current platform. So that's what some of the legacy players are doing. But in addition, we have a ton of upstarts that are making noise in the legal field with brand new generative AI legal tools. I'm sure you've heard of some of these tools. Harvey has been a popular name. Robin AI has a tool. Casetext has CoCounsel, which was bought by Thomson Reuters for $650 million a few months ago. But there's other tools as well: Lega, Legalese, Loki Bots, Paxton AI, Watchtower, Dory, Visa Law, Spellbook, Liquid Text, Trustable, Pursuit, Rocket Matter, FileRead, Lawbase, Darrow, all these upstarts that are coming out of nowhere with their own generative AI chatbot designed specifically for the legal field. So that's definitely one of the big trends we're seeing. Several law firms are testing out these tools like Harvey and Lego right now. And so they're pretty new to the market. So we're still waiting to see exactly the impact from these tools. In my opinion, some of these tools are still trying to figure out what exactly they do. They're AI, but their use case in the legal field is still to be determined at this point. And then you also have some general broader tools in the market that are being introduced into the legal field. So Google Bard, GPT-4, and of course, Microsoft Copilot, which I'm sure most people are familiar with. It was just released this week publicly, Copilot from Microsoft. Some legal professionals are using these tools. There are concerns that, well, these tools are not trained in legal matters and case law. They're still being used by lawyers, or starting to be used by lawyers in the legal field. And then we're also seeing some law firms come out with their own internal custom-made chatbots. And so just to give you a quick example of a few of them, Troutman Pepper came out with a tool called Athena. Buchanan, Ingersoll came out with a tool called Buchanan Artifacts. Davis Wright Trumaine came out with a tool called Chat DWT, Gunderson Detmer came out with a tool called Chat GD. So all these firms are coming out with their own version of ChatGPT for internal purposes. So that's another big trend that we're adapting these technologies, and more legal professionals become comfortable with these tools. We're starting to notice other concerns in the industry. Law firm leaders have told me that the price for some of these generative AI tools might be pretty expensive, and they might deviate from the traditional software standards of paying for users or paying for data. Some generative AI tools charge based on the number of memos or number of arguments. Other tools are not publicly disclosing their price. Complicating the pricing is the fact that some providers may charge firms based on the length of a query, which can vary per use. So, for example, Microsoft's Azure's OpenAI service, which several firms are using, prices as large language models based on tokens. A token can represent a part of a word, such as a handful of characters or punctuation marks. So, for example, an entire sentence could cost about a dozen tokens, depending on the length of that sentence. So Microsoft could charge anywhere from 15 cents to 12 cents per 1,000 tokens, depending on what model is being used. Now, as you know, legal briefs can contain tens of thousands of words, and each word might cost 1 to 2 tokens. So if the pricing sounds a bit complicated to predict, well, that's exactly what some law firms are dealing with right now. So in addition to hallucinations and data privacy concerns, now we have this pricing issue that law firms are dealing with that are concerning. Another issue is the relationship with in-house counsel. I find that some of the law firms that are creating their new generative AI tools, they really should try to initiate conversations with their in-house counsel regarding the use of the technology within the firm's operations. The problem is most GCs and most law firms, most GCs have not really been vocal about the issue. They haven't told their outside counsel about Gen AI so much. And the consensus I've heard from law firms is that clients just are not sharing their thoughts on the issue. I think this is something that does need to be addressed. In-house teams should have that open dialogue with law firms, with their outside counsel about these tools, about data privacy concerns, for example. So that way they can make sure that certain data parameters are included in the service agreements with the law firms. Finally, the other issue that I'm finding is that while we're seeing a lot of the big law firms, especially US-based law firms and UK-based law firms, Australia-based law firms that are releasing their own versions of ChatGPT and coming out with their own Gen AI tools, small law firms are also starting to explore the use of AI. But one issue that I'm starting to notice is that overall preparedness for AI among small firms often lags behind their large firm counterparts. It is totally important for small firms to access these AI tools. It levels the playing field with larger competitors. It helps with access to justice. And so I certainly agree that small law firms should explore the use of AI. But while some small and solo firm attorneys have used AI, I've noticed that AI readiness among the smaller firms was more inconsistent than in big law. After all, lawyers in big law are more likely to access innovative tools before they become available to small law firms. They have data scientists and they have clean data that's accessible to use for the AI models. So I think that's going to be one of the other big issues is as more small law firms and small firm attorneys get used to these tools, preparedness is going to be a major issue going forward. And I think there could be a growing gap between the use of these tools among big law versus small law. So in conclusion, I hope, despite any technical glitches today, I hope everybody got a good understanding of where the legal industry stands. Most of the survey data that I provided, most of these tools are available in the West, in the US. I'm sure they're going to become more available in Ghana and other countries in the months ahead. But I really think based on the conversations I've had with attorneys across the globe, these tools are going to become more present in the legal field, despite all these concerns that I brought up today. So with that being said, if anybody has any questions, comments, I'll certainly be happy to answer them right now. if anybody has any questions.
Hi, Stephen. Thank you so much for that presentation. I thought you were going to clap for Stephen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Stephen, I have a question here. Lady here is asking.
Yes, I can hear you.
She's wondering if the AI would, in court, right, go to court and defend the client, or they'll be helping the lawyer arguing their case in real time. So she wants to know if it's going to replace the lawyer in court in arguing cases, or it's going to complement them.
So you're asking if AI would replace lawyers or complement them in cases? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, something like, yeah.
So that is a great question. I can't say for every court in the world, but I can say in the US, for example, the answer is no. It will not, at least not anytime soon, for many reasons. You need a lawyer. You need somebody who's certified in practicing law. I see it more as a complement in the industry. One thing I often hear is lawyers will not be replaced by AI, but instead lawyers will be replaced by other lawyers who know how to use AI. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, hello, Stephen, thank you for your presentation. Now, for me, my concern has to do well, agree with your conversation, just as you said, focused more on the US perspective as to the data set is coming from there. And then
I can't hear you. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Hello, Stephen,
can you move
a
little closer or something? I can't hear you.
Yeah, is it better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Right. So I'm just saying your conversation was focused more on, US from the data that you presented, the 19%, 22%, and etc. We are in Ghana here and in Africa, we don't have that data. I'm sure it will be lesser, or maybe the disparity will be low. Do you have any data as to, AI integration in African firms? That's number one.
No, the answer is I do not have any data of that. I wish I had data about the use of AI in African law firms, but I do not have that data.
Right. I'm sure myself and my people here will be working on that data, and we can help you with that too. Because it's much of a better conversation too. Now, again, robots are replacing, say, judges to listen to cases and then make decisions. Now, how do you think the future is going to be as far as counsels or lawyers are concerned, if the judge is going to be a robot? So is a lawyer too going to be trained to be a robot too, or something else? You understand the question?
Just so I understand, you're asking me if judges are going to be replaced by robots?
Yes. And then what would be the fate of lawyers too in that sense?
Yeah, I have not heard anything about judges being replaced by robots. I don't think that's in the cards anytime soon. But I do think one interesting use case that I've heard about with generative AI that you can use now. If your judge, for example, and this is what I've heard, if your judge allows the use of AI, doesn't have any objections to it, I've heard of lawyers who have used these chatbots to create briefs written in the style and the voice of the judge that they're that's handling the case. That's what I've heard.
Hello, Stephen. Hello, Stephen. Can you hear me?
Hello. Hi.
Yes.
Yes.
So my question is quite, in a way, it's not related to the legal sector, more of health sector. So I want to know the measures being put in place to ensure easy labor amongst mothers. I want to know whether the AI is going to replace a natural way of giving birth. In a way, there are measures being put in place to, make labor more easy amongst mothers.
Amongst who?
Mothers.
Mothers?
Yes, please. In giving birth.
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
I'm asking that in relation to health, what are the measures? Yes, health. what are the measures being put in place to ensure easy childbirth amongst mothers?
Easy childbirth amongst mothers because of the use of AI. I'm not an expert. I'm sorry, but I'm not an expert in health care. I do know from one of the surveys, actually, consumers are more confident about the use of AI in healthcare than in legal, but I'm not familiar with what AI would mean for healthcare, what it would mean for mothers and childbirth or anything like that. I'm sorry if that doesn't answer your question, but I'm not too familiar about healthcare.
That's very sad. Thank you.
Yes. So do you mind if I share your LinkedIn profile? So just want to connect with you, ask more questions. Can do that?
Sure, absolutely. You can absolutely do that. And thank you. Sorry.
Or how do we reach out to you? If the student want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Sure. Steven, STEVEN .Lerner, LERNER at law360.com is my email address. Steven.Lerner at law360.com.
Your email that you sent me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, I'll give that to them then.
Cool. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.